Happy Lupercalia, everybody, also known as Valentine's Day. You know, I love giving you little history lessons here and there. Think back, ancient Rome. What would be romantic? Celebrating the fertility god Faunus. And by doing that, they would sacrifice goats and dogs, take their blood, smear it on their foreheads, and then slap women in the streets with goat hide. Why? Because they thought it was going to make them fertile. Dreamy. Then comes the 3rd century. Saint Valentine, a priest who at the time was actually marrying couples in secret because the emperor was not allowing young men to get married because he thought they made better soldiers. But Saint Valentine believed in love until he got caught, imprisoned, and then was executed on February 14th. Happy Valentine's! Talk. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee Talk with Cannistraci. This Monday morning, I'm going to talk to you about the holiday we have coming up on Friday. Just kidding, it's not a holiday. Hallmark invented it. Did Hallmark invent it to sell cards? That's what we're going to talk about today on Coffee Talk, because Valentine's Day goes way back to ancient Rome, first of all, to start out. And it wasn't so glorious or romantic, to be honest with you. In ancient Rome, it's when they used to pray to I believe it was the fertility god. It was a big festival called like Lupercalia, and they would gather and honor the gods of fertility, and they would sacrifice goats and dogs, and smear the blood on their foreheads and then run through the streets and slap the women with strips of goat hide because, of course, it would make them more fertile. Isn't that the way to do it? So, yeah, not true romance, but Saint Valentine, because believe it or not, although everybody celebrates, or does everybody really celebrate Valentine's Day? Those who celebrate Valentine's Day are not all Catholics. So basically, in the 3rd century, there was a story of Saint Valentine who would, I believe, marry couples because the emperor at the time thought single men made better soldiers, and he kind of banned marriage. Doesn't sound like a bad idea. I'm just kidding. Emperor Claudius II banned marriage so that single men could be better soldiers. And Saint Valentine believed in love and was secretly marrying. He was a priest who was secretly marrying couples. And he was caught and executed, believe it or not. And he was executed on February 14th, which is the day we are technically celebrating. True love. Supposedly, when in jail, St. Valentine had wrote a letter to a young, sweet girl that he had healed, signing it "From your Valentine," and kind of sweet, but also tragic. And maybe that's where we get Valentines. Also, priest writing a letter to a girl. I don't know. He healed her. I thought this guy was just marrying people. This is what happens. One rumor starts, it's like the game of telephone, and then all of a sudden you got another creepy priest. So let's just leave it that he believes in love and was marrying people. Fast forward to the Middle Ages, and the holiday got a glow up. Shakespeare really romanticized it in his writings, and by the 18th century, people started actually exchanging things like handmade cards, which probably doesn't exist anymore, but I can tell you right now, in the 80s, growing up in school, we all made each other handmade cards. I made handmade cards for my mom, but we used to even make them to each other like classmates. Anyway, somewhere down the line, the church cleans up the goat slapping festivities, and boom, Valentine's Day became a holiday as we know it today. And then Hallmark hopped on the bandwagon probably somewhere in the 1900s. And that's why you now have to spend $13.50 on a card. Who could afford that? Who could afford these days to buy a card and then mail it out? Between the price of cards and stamps, okay, I sound like my grandparents. Anyway, to speak about Valentine's Day, I've kind of never been into it. In fact, I didn't even have anything red in my closet to wear, just why I'm donning my Bronx Zoo shirt right now. Speaking of the Bronx, I remember Valentine's Day, and listen, some people from the Bronx, and this is going to be like nails. This is nails on a scratchboard? Nails on a chalkboard for me. This is nails on a chalkboard for me, but some people say Valentine's Day. If you've procreated with somebody who says Valentine's Day, you deserve that he's not going to pay child support. But anyway, Valentine's Day, after the saints, was celebrated in the 80s. I remember in school they used to give us cards to write to each other, and it was really sweet. And we would get those candy hearts, and we'd cut out, construction paper. We'd cut a red heart out of a construction paper, and we would make a card out of it if we folded it in half. I mean, these are the sweet things that I remember that probably the last time I celebrated Valentine's Day was when I did things like that. I'll never forget in first grade. Oh my God. I don't know what happened. In first grade, I had a crush. That's what they used to call it. And I think he asked me to be his Valentine. And then on Valentine's Day, which this is like, I don't know, this is like a little, this is a little much. I think for back in the 80s too, in first grade, but I'll never forget, I came out of school and he had handed me a gift, and my mother was waiting for me at pickup, and I ran to her with the gift, and we were all excited, and we opened it up, and it was a ring. I got a ring in the first grade. I mean, that's pretty boss. I mean, I'm in the first grade getting jewelry. Come on, I should have known from then I would be a man-eater, but I did get a ring from Pierluigi in PS 89 in the Bronx. If anybody knows him, went to PS 89, please make a comment, because that's actually hilarious, especially that I remembered his name. And maybe first grade with Pierluigi was the last time I think I celebrated. I hate to even use the word celebrate, Valentine's Day, but when I looked up the history, and I did that specifically because I always get nostalgic with you guys about why I loved growing up in the 80s, especially in the Bronx. But there is some beauty to the history of Valentine's Day, and I think that if you are going to share the day with someone special, it is kind of good to know the history of it. Maybe it makes it a little more special. I have to be honest, I've never subscribed to one day of anything. Like, I get it, the Mother's Day, the Father's Day, the Valentine's Day, but I think pretty much any day of the year could be these holidays. But again, this is the society we live in. We like structure. We like days. There's national days for everything now. I just did the episode on Divorce Day, which went wild. So I'm assuming with how good the Divorce Day episode did, I don't know how many of you are celebrating Valentine's Day this close to being happy about divorce. But that said, if you're going to do something nice for someone, I always personally like giving it a personal touch. Although if a grown man made a woman a handmade card these days, we would probably break up with them. But there could be really sweet things about doing something like that, or maybe just sharing the history of Saint Valentine. How about that? Whether you subscribe to being a Roman Catholic or religion, I think knowing the history of where these days come from makes it a little more special. So I hope you enjoyed the episode today, where I gave you a little bit of a history lesson, a little bit of nostalgia, and a lot of love. So thank you guys for tuning in. I want to hear your thoughts about this podcast. I know I've been bringing on guests and then doing solo episodes. Tell me in the comments what you like or what you like best. This podcast, literally Coffee Talk with Tara Cannistraci, is you and I having a cup of coffee together. So I want to know what you think of it, or what you like and don't like. And say it with a little bit of love, since it's Valentine's Day. All my shows, guys, what I really want from you guys more than anything is to show me the love at a show, because then I get to actually meet you. All those shows are listed at tarajokes.com. I'm in San Diego and Chandler, Arizona. I keep forgetting to mention those shows at the end of this month. And then I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, Boca, Naples, Tampa, Toronto, Montreal, Seattle, Nashville, Chicago. I mean, guys, the list goes on. Irvine, California. Super excited for that show. Sales picked up. Amazing. I'm very excited. So, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your week. If you want a Coffee Talk mug, that's on my merch, tarajokes.com. And I'll see you next week.
Coffee Talk.